I think it looks pretty good right here. These are my favorites. What do you think though? Does it look like Easter decor or spring decor? Why can't it just be both? Well, that's fair. It could certainly be both. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It is so good to see you. I'm so glad y'all are here today. I am excited. Spring is definitely in the air. For a lot of us anyway. I live up here in the Pacific Northwest and we've had a lot of snow this past week, but it's okay. I know spring is coming. So today we are going to work on some really fun Easter/spring projects that I can hardly wait to share with y'all. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. When I set out to create the designs and sketch up the designs that we're going to be working on today, the thing that I had the most in mind, in the forefront of my mind, was to create a really fun spring collection of pieces that we can curate and style so that they look intentional and they all match and just kind of play really well together. So today we're going to talk a little bit about design, we're going to talk about some color palettes, and then we're going to DIY some really fun projects. So let's head into the studio and get started on our first project. Before we head into the studio, we're going to talk color for just a few minutes. The reason I want to do this is because anytime I am preparing to style or design a new space or give a space a refresh, the first thing you have to do is choose your color palette. And it's really no different when I jump into a DIY project or a crafty project. I think color all the time. And the question that I ask myself is, what color palette do I want in this space, and what color palette is going to blend well with the surrounding colors in that space? So that's how I choose my color palette. I do think very carefully about that. I play with color, I test some colors, and the one thing that I try really hard not to do is put myself in a box when I am choosing colors, because I think sometimes it's really easy for us to get stuck in that color trap where we feel like every single color has to be exactly the same as its surrounding colors, and that's not actually true. It really makes the space pleasing and eye-catching when you've got a little bit of contrasting color. And if you do have a space that is full of color, think neutrals. So today's palette, that's exactly what we're going to do, because I do have a lot of color in my space already, especially a lot of green, because you all know it's my favorite color. So today, the color palette that I landed on was a very earthy, organic, neutral color palette, because by choosing earthy, organic, natural colors, you set yourself up for success. And no matter what you create and paint with those colors, it's going to blend really well with its surrounding colors in any space. So no matter what your color palette is, if you're struggling with color choice, just think earthy, natural, and organic. So that's what we're going to do. Now we can head into the studio and start working on our projects. I'm really excited about this. I've got 3 designs today, and we're going to create these designs keeping our color palette in mind as we work. Okay, so our first project is going to be these darling little bunnies that we're going to work on. I'm going to show you guys how I created this and how I got this really pretty organic, earthy texture and feel to this cute little bunny. Bunnies are so iconic of this time of the year. They're iconic for Easter, but they also work really, really well for spring. So we're incorporating this into Easter and spring decor. Let's go work on this bunny. Let's see how it all came together. For this project, we're going to be creating some really cute faux ceramic style bunnies. So you're going to need bunnies, of course. I'm going to be using these ones that Michael 3D printed for me. And you're going to need some Mod Podge, you're going to need paint, you're going to need some baking soda, and you're going to need your favorite beverage to sip on while we are working. So the first thing we're going to do to get started with this is I am going to come in and cover this entire bunny with some Mod Podge. The reason I do this is to give our paint a really good surface to adhere to, because sometimes paint does not always stick very well to plastic. The Mod Podge has completely dried, so now we are going to come in with our base coat. This is the coat that's going to prep our bunnies for all the fun texture that we are going to add in just a little bit. The color that I'm using here is a color that I created myself. It's a really pretty tan color that leans heavily on the brown side of things. It's a little bit more of a warm tan color. But you do you paint these any color of your choosing that suits your tastes and style. So I'm going to go ahead and get this base coat put onto both bunnies and let it dry thoroughly, and then we will hop on over to our next step. Our base color has completely dried, so now we're going to come in with our texture. And to create the texture, I'm simply just added some baking soda to my paint. This is the same color as our base coat, and I added quite a bit of baking soda. So the amount of baking soda that you add is going to determine how heavy or how light your texture is. I prefer a pretty heavy texture, so I added quite a bit of baking soda to my paint color. And now we just go ahead and paint. I did do 3 coats of this because I wanted a really good full coverage, and I wanted quite a bit of heavy texture to this. So I painted them and then let that dry completely. I'm just getting the final touches of paint onto these little cuties, and then we will let them completely set up and dry. And then we'll take a look at the final results at the end. So stay tuned for that, because I think you guys are gonna love how these little cuties turned out. I would like to thank Ohuhu for sponsoring today's episode. If y'all don't know what Ohuhu is, they are an art supply company that just has the most incredible art supplies. We've actually worked with them before. Last year we did a really fun project working with their alcohol markers. And today we are going to be working with a set of acrylic markers that they kindly sent to me to test out and try. So for our next project, we are going to be creating these darling little Easter eggs. I just think these are so fun. They're so cute, and the color palette is just mwah. So thanks again, Ohuhu, for sponsoring this episode. And y'all, let's go play with some acrylic markers and see what kind of mess we can make. I think one of the most exciting things about getting a new art supply is the unpackaging of these. And I love the packaging that these Ohuhu markers come in. It is so pretty. It's got this convenient little carrying handle on it. And then when you open it up, this is where the real happiness begins, because look at all these colors, y'all. I love this pack. This is the 48 pack of acrylic markers, and these colors are spectacular. Just look at all that splash of color. And I think this is the time of year when we all need a lot of color in our lives. So this is a great time to pick up a pack of these Ohuhu markers and just put some splashes of color in your life. My second favorite thing about getting a new art supply is swatching all the colors. And I love that Ohuhu puts the markers in the exact same order as the paint color on the swatches, so it makes it super easy to swatch. And it's really fun that they give you the white and the black so that you can see what each of these colors looks like on a light surface versus a dark surface. It is so much fun. So we're going to go ahead and just swatch all of these out. Have fun doing this. This is one of the most relaxing processes for me. I do love this part. Oh, and I forgot to mention that to activate these, you just have to give them a quick little shake and they are ready to go. So let's swatch away. Y'all, look at these beautiful colors. Oh, this just makes my heart so happy. I just love all these beautiful, vivid colors of springtime. All right, let's get our Easter eggs painted now, shall we? So the first thing we need to do is take a drink of our hot beverage because that is essential to painting, right? All right, I have these wooden Easter eggs here that we're going to paint. So the first thing I want to do is obviously give them a base coat because we're going to come in and do some really pretty designs on these with, I bet you can't guess, yep, our acrylic markers. And y'all, honestly, there is no easy way to paint an Easter egg. It's tricky because you have to hold on to it somewhere, right? So I painted the top half of all of these and then very carefully sat it back in the carton as to not get fingerprints in it, and then let that dry, flipped them all over and painted the bottom half. And yeah, it was a little bit tedious. It took a little bit of time, but it's well worth it to do this step. I mean, I think the wooden part is really beautiful too. I just think having that acrylic paint base coat is going to make the color from our acrylic markers just pop and stand out a little more than if we painted straight on the wood. Does that make sense? Were you following me there? All right, we're going to go ahead and get these finished painting, and it does make my fingers messy. I had paint all over my fingers, but that's okay. That's just part of the fun, right? So let's wrap this up really, really quickly, shall we? Maybe a little magic here, and ta-da! They're all painted. So we now have the base coat on all of these. Now we get to have a ton of fun here. I'm going to pick just a couple of really pretty brown colors to work with here because that's kind of the color theme that I am working with here. We're trying to keep everything in a very neutral color palette. So I thought these browns would be really pretty. So I'm just going to come in, and for this first one, I'm just going to draw some really simple little flowers. And to do this, I really take advantage of the shape of the marker tip. I just really utilize that well. And I start by putting the tip, just like this, putting the tip of my marker onto the spot, and then I kind of just go sideways with it, and it just automatically creates these really pretty little petal shapes. So that is how I created all of these flowers. And again, this one was a little tricky too because you had to put a few flowers on, let those dry, and then move on to the rest of the egg. I will say though that these acrylic markers do dry really, really quickly. After doing these cute little flower petals, I do experiment with just a few different types of flowers on all the rest of these, and it's kind of fun. So just have fun with this process, just play, and just, yeah, simply enjoy the whole process of creating here. After drawing flowers onto several of these, I let them dry, and then I did come back and put the centers on. And y'all, I just think these turned out so cute. I love the playfulness to them, the whimsy, and they just really speak to the spring season nicely. I loved working with these markers, especially. The pigment is just so silky smooth. It just glides onto the surface. They don't leak, and they do dry fast, so that is a really big bonus. So here's what they all look like finished, and I love how these turned out. Last but not least, we're going to play with some air dry clay. If y'all have been with me for a while, you know that air dry clay is one of my favorite mediums to work with. I love this stuff, and I just am constantly creating things with air dry clay. So this next project is sort of like an Easter egg-ish project. We're going to be creating these, what do you call this? Like a stamped effect in the clay using some greenery stems and some herbs and whatnot. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait to go jump into this project and get our hands dirty because we're going to be playing in the mud. Are y'all ready to get your hands dirty with this one? We are going to have some fun here. I love air dry clay, and I use it to create so many fun things. So for this project, we're going to attempt to create some fossils with botanical impressions. Now, y'all, I don't know if this is going to turn out. We're just going to experiment. We're going to play. We're going to have fun. And that's the important part, because even if it doesn't turn out, we can say we had fun trying, right? So I have these plastic Easter eggs, and my thought for this was, because I do want these to look like fossils, so to speak, they'll be egg-ish, but my main goal here is to just create something that looks like a really cool botanical fossil. So I'm going to coat the entire egg here with some clay. The first thing I did, though, was put down a thin layer of waterproof glue. You need to make sure it is waterproof because air dry clay has a lot of moisture in it. So if you do not use waterproof glue as your base, you're going to have problems. It doesn't stick very well, and you do run the risk of the clay cracking. I have discovered that this method, or this first step, really does help the clay from cracking as it dries. Okay, so here we're covering this entire egg with the air dry clay, and I just took a small section, covered one half, and then another small section to cover the other half, and then I just worked them all together and just meld the clay together. I rubbed it in my hands a little bit, just did a lot of molding and playing around with it. The key to this is to keep your hands moist, keep them a little bit wet. The water really helps soften the clay and smooth the clay out really, really well. So I would just take a little water, put it on my fingertips, and then just work it into the clay to really give this a super, super smooth surface. Once you feel like your clay has been smoothed enough and you've gotten most of the bumps and lumps out, you're not going to get them all out. Well, I mean, you can, but it does take a lot of work. But that's not the look I was going for, because I do want these to look, I want them to look like fossils, and I want them to look sort of ancient. So once I got them smoothed enough, I took my faux stems, and I'm just using some faux stems here. I just picked a few off of some branches that I had, and I'm going to just I'm going to press these into the clay to give a really good imprint here, and then I carefully lift it up. The first one could have turned out better, but with a lot of practice, the more I did, the better they all started to look.
After I finished molding all of these and pressing all of the botanicals into them, I did set them aside to let them dry thoroughly. It took about 4 days. You do want to make sure that your clay is completely cured before you start painting, because if there's any moisture left in your clay, when you go to paint, you're going to end up with a little bit of a mushy mess, and you don't want that to happen. So just be patient with this process and let your clay fully cure before painting. And once that process was done, I started painting. Duh! You can clearly see that's what I'm doing here. Oh goodness. Okay, so the paint color that I'm using for these, because I did want these to look fossil-ish, I thought a dark color would be really good here, so I chose this really dark greenish brown color. The camera doesn't really do this color justice, but it does lean very strong on the green side. It's just a very earthy, organic green. After I got them painted though, I wasn't too sure I liked this color. They looked a little weird maybe. And so in hindsight, I wish that I would have chosen a little bit of a lighter color to do these, but I chose the dark color because I did want that rock, fossil-ish look to them. So anyway, you know, life goes on, right? So this is the color I painted them. And again, these were a little tricky to paint. It was no different than painting the eggs. You just kind of paint one side, let that dry, and then flip them over and paint the other. And once I got them all painted and let the paint completely dry and set, I did want to add just a little bit of texture to these, a little bit of visual interest, because they were feeling a little flat. So I took that paint color that we used on our bunnies, dipped my paintbrush right into that, and then just gave these eggs a fun little splatter. And I really think that did make a big difference, because it did give them a lot more depth and a little dimension to them. Be really careful not to smudge them though, like I did.
That was so much fun. I really enjoyed working on all of those projects. I felt like they were all super relaxing, and they all three just turned out so much fun. I think they're all darling, and they're gonna be a lot of fun to style. So that is what we are going to do next, because we can't create these projects and then not style them, right? So let's go see how we can style these, and I'll show y'all a few different ways that they can be styled, or how I styled them in my home. So let's go take a look. I really hope that y'all enjoyed today's projects. I hope you enjoyed this entire episode, and that it gave you a little bit of inspiration for your Easter or spring decor. I think one of the things that I love most about the pieces that we started working on today is that they are going to become part of a collection. That was sort of my theme for today's projects. Is I wanted to create a collection of pieces that are all going to play well together. The color palette is very neutral, so I can put it anywhere, and I can add to it. So I think that's the fun part about starting a collection of pieces and DIYing them in particular, because you can add to them. So that's my plan, is to add to some of these pieces to make them work throughout the rest of spring and maybe even into early summer. So think about that when y'all are creating designs and projects. Think about them, a fun new way to think about them is that they can become a collection of decor, of staple decor pieces that you can use throughout the season. So I really hope that y'all enjoyed it. I do hope that you were a little bit inspired by these projects, and if you give any of them a try, I would love to hear how yours turned out. I'd also love to know if you had a favorite from today's projects. Alrighty friends, that is going to wrap up today's episode. This was a lot of fun. I really loved hanging hanging out with y'all. I am so glad that you stopped by to spend some time with me today. It truly does mean the world to me. I would also like to thank Ohuhu for sponsoring today's episode. If y'all are interested in any of their products, check their website out. I will have the link in my description box for their website, and I will also have some Amazon affiliate links where you can pick up some of their products as well. And the markers that we use today are available on either websites, Ohuhu's website or Amazon. I will also have a discount code for y'all to use if you go to Ohuhu's website. You'll have a discount code, and all of that will be listed for you in the description box. The discount code, however, won't work if you use Amazon. So check out their website. The link again will be in the description box. Y'all will love their products. You will not be sorry that you invested in some of their products. I love the alcohol markers. I love their acrylic markers, and they're so versatile. You can do so many cool things with them. So check them out. Thanks again, y'all, for being here. I love you all to pieces. I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Until then, take care, and I will see y'all soon. Bye, friends. Really enjoyed, really cute. I really enjoyed him really well. We really are really. How many times are we gonna say really? There's a whole lot of reallys going on there.